Welcome to Lifestyle by Design, helping you solve everyday challenges. I'm Karen Jacobs, a clinical professor at Boston University, an occupational therapist, and a Brookline Rotarian. And here's my co-host.
Hi, and I'm Andrea Calso. And we're in about the middle of March here, and in Boston, for those of you who are either living here or have been following the news, you know we've had a crazy winter of snow. But now the ground is starting to emerge. There's been a little bit of a thaw. The snow is somewhat dwindling. And we're starting to emerge from our shells and venturing into the great outdoors. And we thought, what a perfect opportunity to talk about all of that. And so tonight we're joined by Dennis Carlberg, the Director of Sustainability at Boston University. And we're so happy to have you here.
Welcome.
And to share your expertise. We're so excited. Thank you.
Well, first of all, we have a connection with Iceland. So
It's
maybe
true.
you can start with, your experience in Iceland and then coming to Boston University as well.
Well, I was practicing architecture for 25 years in Boston, and 10 years, a lot of that time was spent in Iceland, doing some really fun and progressive sustainable design projects, planning, and so on. And it's, as Karen knows, it's a community where, it's a number of communities, but really the greater Reykjavik area is a really robust, vibrant place with a lot of art, a lot of really exciting things going on, and wonderful people. It's just a great place to be. So we have that connection, and we talk about it a lot.
All the time. I have to get back there. So you mentioned sustainability, and you're the Sustainability Director at Boston University. Can you sort of define sustainability for us?
Well, yeah, I think the simple thing to do is just use the Brundtland Commission's definition, which is meeting the needs of the present, so meeting our needs, without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And really at the same level, or maybe not the consumption level, but the quality of life is really what it's about. And it's really about maintaining the ability to have a good quality of life for generations to come.
Right. And you, my understanding is that the sustainability program is somewhat new to Boston University, with you coming in 2009, getting that started. So tell us a little bit about what it is at BU and how it got started.
Well, it starts with the president, right? President Brown said, we're going to do this. So he laid out sort of some basic things. We'll have a sustainability director. We'll have a revolving loan fund. So we have we started with a $1 million revolving loan fund to fund sustainability projects and then pay themselves back and then continue. And that's been very effective. And then have a sustainability committee, which was started out with a steering committee with 4 working groups. So looking at energy conservation, green buildings or sustainable buildings and operations, recycling and waste management, and communications and outreach. So with those 4 working groups actually meeting every other week for a year, we got a lot of sort of best practices defined, what other institutions are doing and what other organizations are doing. We didn't just look at other higher ed institutions. And what's great about this job is we share so much with one another. So I got up the learning curve very quickly with the support of other local institutions, sustainability teams, Harvard, MIT, Tufts primarily, Northeastern as well. Northeastern started about the same time we did, a little bit before. So we kind of came up that curve at the same time. But it's just such an exciting ability to sort of share best practices, and now we're sharing best practices, our best practices. They're good for us. Hopefully, others can leverage what we've learned, because we've certainly leveraged what others have learned.
Yeah.
So over this time period, what has been one of the more exciting projects for you to work on?
There's so many exciting things.
Oh, yes, I know there are, but maybe just pick out one that you
Well, I think what's really cool is watching the transformation of the campus.
Yes.
When I started, there was not much recycling. Our recycling rate in 2000, let me just kind of back up a little bit, because we've benchmarked all our metrics from FY06, so the last half of 2005 and the first half of 2006. So all our metrics are benchmarked. We're tracking everything we're doing. So our recycling rate in 2006 was 3%. Our recycling rate last year was 33%.
Wow.
That's nice, but what's more important is reducing our total waste, which we've done by 9%. And I think when the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, are in that order for a reason. So I think taking advantage of reducing our waste and then reusing and then recycling. I think, and what's important about that is it's not just sort of the facts of it, but how it engages the community in participating in this culture change. Because really, it's about changing the culture.
I remember, and I don't know if I'm doing this correctly in time, but I remember when the trays were removed from the cafeteria, and that had a direct impact on water consumption. Was that correct? And the students embraced it without any complaints.
There were complaints.
Oh, there were. Well, I didn't hear them.
For about a week, people were
like,
well,
how am I
going to
do this?
Exactly, and they figured it out.
Yeah.
And they can go back. It's not like, if you're hungry, you go back for seconds, and
True.
It's not a big deal.
But I thought that was a really interesting approach that I had not even thought about at all. And you saved so much water use.
Yeah, it's about a third. We reduced our water consumption for our dining by about a third. And we reduced food waste by about a third.
Oh, okay.
Which, there's so much food waste. And so that's a big help there. And then the processes that are in place through our dining sustainability program to reduce the waste. And all the food waste that is created, both went in the prep area as well as what is left on people's plates, that all gets composted and turned into a soil amendment and sold to, not by us, but by the vendor that picks it up, gets sold to local farmers and gardeners for us, to enrich the soils.
That's great.
So it's a nice loop.
It is a nice loop. And there's a lot of support of the local community with all of this, which is
It's
great.
really important.
It's really important.
I also I find it interesting. Boston University is a large school, both in just size and the amount of space it takes up in sort of the Boston area, but also the student population is quite large. So it's really interesting. I've heard you speak before, and it's really interesting to see these changes really do. You can see an impact because of the sheer numbers, and that must be really gratifying.
Yeah, I mean, I look at my career, right, from practicing architecture and really trying to do good work and do sustainable design. But when you come down to it, you're doing one project at a time. You're affecting that project, and hopefully you're moving the design needle in a way to move to a more sustainable design within the industry, right? You think about those kinds of things.
Right.
But I mean, this is the huge opportunity for me personally, because I feel like every day I come to work, I'm having an impact, and I'm affecting change.
Right. Yeah. I'm interested in the process. How do you and your team come up with what those projects are, how you implement them? Maybe there's key areas you're looking at.
They're really kind of two sides. I think there are drivers that come. There are drivers that come from the students, there are drivers that come from the faculty, staff, and there are drivers that come from the administration. But there's also the things that we, Lisa Tornator, my outreach coordinator, and I, working in close collaboration, coming up with where we should be taking the program. What's next? And don't ask me that question because we're not there yet.
You knew I was going to say that. What is next?
Well, how about instead of what's next, what's something that you're working on, that you've been working on recently, that you can tell us about?
Well, okay. So we really kind of cover about 18 different issue areas. And to say we focus is we can't.
Relative.
18, right? But, we do, the main effort is always reducing our energy consumption. So that is always there. It's always a big focus, and that's something facilities management and planning has embedded into the process. So there's that constantly going on. So now that that's sort of rolling, last year I spent a focused amount of time on doing a vulnerability assessment for climate change. So while we're reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and our impacts on a changing climate, we're also looking at the impacts of a changing climate on the university. So rising temperatures is a big issue. Rising sea levels is a big issue, and how that impacts our operations over time. Right now, frankly, we're in a window of an opportunity.
Yes.
It's our opportunity to plan, to prepare, and to invest in a long-term ability to sustain the university. And we're Boston University. We're not going anywhere, right? So that is the first step in that is identifying what the vulnerabilities are, and then the second step are what are the strategies for addressing those vulnerabilities in a intelligent way that is incremental over time. So an example is if there's a piece of equipment that is in a basement and that piece of equipment needs to be replaced, you really look at where you put that piece of equipment. Do you really put it back where it was? And sometimes you may have to. But if there's a better place to put it, then you do that. The new project we're doing at BU is the Center for Integrated Life Sciences and Engineering. And that building has mechanical equipment on the second and third floors. There's no basement, and none of that. There is important equipment on research equipment on the first floor, but there's no basement, and that mechanical equipment that would usually go in the basement is on the second and third.
So that's looking at the future that we're going to have rising seawater. Is that what it would be in preparation?
I mean, it's a common. I mean, intensity of storms is growing.
Yes, as we know.
As we know, we've had a winter, right? Yeah. So we're concerned about, over the short term, a heavy storm event. Over the long term, we need to think about the twice daily high tide, and of course, there's got to be some bigger infrastructural solutions to that. But at the same time, we need to be paying attention to taking care of ourselves in the shorter term.
So what are, we talked about reduce, reuse, recycle, but what are some other strategies that you've either learned along the way that students have really responded to that maybe others can incorporate into their best practices to contribute to a more sustainable environment?
Well, I think, Brookline, the recycling's an important part of your daily activities. And I think once people kind of understand how to do it, we're all kind of coming around to that as a society. That's easy. It becomes easy. At first, it's like, where do I put this? Where do I put that? But it doesn't take long to get that figured out. So I think that's kind of the first order. But I think really the most important thing is turning off the lights when you leave the room. There's nothing more important than an individual can do, and nothing less expensive.
And
right?
I have to say,
it's not a technology.
I do that. I have a sign that you all put together, and it's right at my door, and it's really interesting because it's a change. I remember growing up, my father used to always get angry at us because we always left all the lights on, and we didn't see it as really important. I think he was thinking more about the cost.
The energy bill.
Right. But it's so important. So that sign really helps. And now it's second nature to always do that. And as you know, I live in one of the dormitories, and I do see students making efforts to shut lights off, to unplug some of the, their chargers in the wall. Before I leave in the morning, I take the charger out of the wall.
Great.
I don't have a printer because I only got silver. But maybe you can talk about that initiative with the offices.
Yeah, actually, this is good.
I want gold.
Karen was one of the very first people at Boston University to get her office, Green Office, certified. Yes. Sargent College was our pilot, and I won't go through all the. I mean, it's an interesting process, but we don't need to keep that. You don't want to watch.
Go through the minutiae.
I like it, but that's okay.
But I think the real point of the Green Office certification is what an individual has the ability to do themselves. So this doesn't deal with the lights in the room except for turning them off. So it's kind of a point. It is a point system, where you get points for different behaviors that reduce your environmental impact. So recycling and power, and the fact that she doesn't have a printer in her office gives her a lot of points.
And I got as a gift an electric pencil sharpener. I still use pencils. So now it's just sitting there sort of as a little, sculpture. But it really made a big difference not having those items in and using them.
The real important things to not have plugged in, and part of the certification program is, what is the total wattage you have plugged into your wall? So we measure that. So your computer, your telephone, and at one point I could have recycled what people have, but 4 watts for a telephone, for example, and depends upon the computer and the monitor. But turning off your monitor, setting it to go off automatically after 3 minutes, and then not the whole computer if you're back and forth, but the monitor at least, because that's where a lot of the energy goes. So it's just kind of going through those things that pull energy and create carbon emissions.
And at BU, the students, the faculty, the staff, administrators have you as an access, as a resource.
Yeah.
And your website is very robust with all this information. And you can really see students implementing the information there. I see it with the recycling. You've made it easy to do that. And there's signs that tell you what to do. And I think people just need that education, because I think we all want
And
We all need it.
reminders.
We all
probably.
need
Yeah, we want it.
I think there's a
Healthy
certain,
future.
I think there's a big psychological element. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it's learning what to do, being reminded, but then also, I think that's really interesting what you said about knowing all these little things add into a whole in your office. Those few watts add up into something large.
We're going to go into your office.
Oh God, this is tough. I work in a very tech-heavy space,
I know.
so I'm probably
All right,
not
that's
a model
okay.
citizen on
next
that
time,
front.
next time. But it really, actually, when I walk around Sargent and I see the certificates there's small little certificates on the door, I think it's really important because it is role modeling what each of us can do.
It generates competition.
It does. I was very competitive. There was only one person that got gold.
Oh.
Yes, but I think I could get gold now.
Well, you can get recertified.
I
But
told
we have over 1,200 offices
know.
certified now.
Wow.
it's fantastic.
Almost 1,300.
Wow.
Can you tell us a little bit about LEED?
Sure,
Because LEED is really important.
absolutely.
And so tell us about LEED.
Well, the mission of LEED is to transform the marketplace to a more sustainable way of building. And I think they have absolutely done that. When I did my first LEED project in 2000, I'll get the numbers wrong, but as I recall, you get 2 points for recycling 10% of your construction waste. Now you have to get 75% to get 2 points.
Wow.
And 95 you can do and get 3 points. 95 is difficult, but it has changed because there's a market and there's a demand for the materials that get recycled. That is really good. But I think where you get the most points in LEED, as in Green Office certification, is in your energy use, because that has the most direct impact on climate change.
So LEED itself, for our viewers that don't know what LEED
sorry.
means, that's okay. So what is LEED? Why is that important? And around campus, do we have any LEED certified buildings and spaces?
Thank you for that softball.
I did.
LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's a green building certification program system that is it's administered by the design team. They submit the credits, they get reviewed, and then and it comes after you've completed the building. So that's just a quick snapshot. And there are several categories. There are 5 categories: energy, water, sites, materials, indoor environmental quality. And so at BU, we have 318,000 square feet LEED certified. We have, I don't know how many, probably 500,000 square feet in the pipeline in the process of getting certified. 71% of that square footage is LEED Gold. You can get certified LEED Gold or Platinum. We don't have any platinum buildings except one we collaborated on, which collaboration around this is really important. We have a high-tech, mass green high-performance computing center in Holyoke, Massachusetts, which we collaborated with Harvard, MIT, Tufts, Boston College, I think, and UMass, Northeastern.
One of those.
You know, but it was a collaboration with those universities
Fantastic.
and the state to build this high-performance computing center in Western Mass, where there's hydropower. So you know that it's close and it's a big energy use. So it's water-cooled system. It's amazing, and it's a great collaboration. And a lot of human genome stuff's going on there. It's really cool.
Yeah, the collaboration I think is important because that's really something that other places can look at and say we can do it too. Just like
and I think collaboration and sustainability go hand in hand. And one example of that is Mayor Walsh has convened, has invited, I think, 13 communities in the area around a discussion of climate preparedness leadership, because water knows no bounds. And so how, as a region, do we address this issue?
Right.
I think it's really
And
critical.
BU is part of that, right? Is President Brown one of the members?
President Brown is a member of the Mayor's Green Ribbon Commission, which is 30 members, and you know, the point of the Green Ribbon Commission is to actually get to the 25% carbon reductions that the city has set as its goal for 2020. By the way, Boston University has the same goal by 2020, and we met it last year.
Wow.
And because of you. No, but it's team effort.
That's collaboration, right?
Yeah.
It's a big effort by a lot of people, and you know, leadership from the top.
It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, something you had mentioned earlier that I thought was interesting, I hoped you could talk a little bit more on, was the revolving door fund, or the
Revolving loan fund.
revolving loan fund. Thank you.
Right.
Well, the metaphor was there. It was. Yeah, that sounded really interesting. So I hoped you could explain a little bit more what that is.
So what President Brown did is he set up this $1 million revolving loan fund, which for a university as large as BU is a small fund. $1 million is a lot of money, but there are lots of large projects that need to be done. So if we have a project, say a $100,000 lighting retrofit, we'll take $100,000 out of that loan fund. Then let's just keep it simple. It's a 2-year payback. So each year, $50,000 is taken out of the operating budget for that building, and that always gets taken out of that building. So because the assumption is made that will continue. So that $50,000 gets put back into the loan fund every year, and then after that it goes to the bottom line. So last year we actually doubled the revolving loan fund in addition to its cycle. And I haven't checked the numbers recently, but since 2009, my numbers from last year, I think it was about we've spent about $2.5 million out of that $1 million.
That's amazing.
Because it rebuilds.
Wow.
Right?
I guess that's the part that interested me the most, because it's sustainability on a financial level as well, and to see it work at that level is really amazing.
None of this would be happening if it wasn't financially feasible.
Right.
And you know, we have a long-term view, but all of our projects are short-term paybacks right now. And they are getting more complicated with longer paybacks, but you know, all our paybacks are, the longest one I can think of is 8 years. And it's a geothermal project, 888 Com Ave. We have
Tell us about that.
That's really cool.
Oh yeah, I'm
I don't
excited.
know anything about geothermal.
Well, we know from Iceland.
It's actually not that kind of geothermal.
Oh.
It's
Well, it couldn't be. Right.
no, we're not drilling that deep. We're drilling 1,500 feet, 6 wells, and it's using the earth as a heat exchanger essentially. So the Earth's temperature is about 55 degrees year-round. So in the summertime, you're using that 55-degree temperature against 90-degree temperature, say, and trying to get your building to about 70 degrees. So you're using that cool water, and you're using that circulating in the building, and then using that to cool the building. And in the wintertime, that's 55 degrees, and it's 20 or, well, 0, whatever, recently. And so there's a less of a difference in the temperature that you have to heat that up. So, and water conducts energy better than air does. So there are 2 other cool things about this. We have a very small mechanical room. Usually mechanical rooms are pretty big that blow air everywhere, right? And heat it and cool it and do whatever that needs to happen. But there's no rooftop equipment. So we have an empty roof. So what does that mean? That means there's an opportunity to put solar panels on that roof.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
Well, this is something we're engaged in now with the new Center for Integrated Life Sciences and Engineering building. SILC is what we call it, which is why it takes me a minute to get that out. We're looking at solar for that roof. Haven't finished. It's not a done deal, but it's a possibility.
We have some green roof. Don't we have one green
We have one green roof.
Right. School
and
of Ed? No?
No.
Where is that? Where is
No,
that
School of Education has the first solar panels on campus. The 100 Bay State Road, the Yawkey Center for Student Services has our first green roof. But I'd rather be putting roofs that are generating energy.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
And I have nothing against, I love green roofs. But having, and so anyway, we're looking at doing a large, we're looking at what we can actually do on campus.
That's fabulous.
So.
Yes.
Oh, it's great. Well, we're going to have to wind down.
Yeah, this is so interesting.
Just felt like we got wound up.
I know. I'm all excited. Now I feel like I want to walk around campus to see some of these changes that I didn't even realize were happening.
I mean, some of these aren't necessarily happening yet. We have to do feasibility studies. They're not necessarily happening until we've gone through the financial analysis to make sure that we can do them.
Well, I admire that you have a job that you love every day, and you're having a tremendous impact. And it's on not just not the Boston area. It's global when you think of it. Sustainability is all about the world and the future. So we really admire what you're doing. So thanks for being on our show today.
Thanks, it's a pleasure.
Karen had mentioned that you can learn more on the website. Where can folks go online?
bu.edu/sustainability.
Great. And it's a great website.
Great.
Lots of good information.
It's an award-winning website.
Award-winning. And I didn't even say that.
Webby Award.
I should have said that.
Dennis, thank you so
Thanks
much
so much
for joining us tonight. We really enjoyed it, and we learned a lot. Thank you for joining us on the show again on Lifestyle by Design. This program is a part of Thursday Night Live here at Brookline Interactive Group. It's an opportunity for folks to come on TV and do what we're doing here, or whatever you can dream of in front of the camera to share with your community. So we hope you'll consider tuning in next time, and also come visiting us here at BIG to see how you can get involved. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you.